The galaxy was wide, dark, and endless. In its vast emptiness, light from dying stars mixed with the cold silence of space. Somewhere in this endless sea, a small world fought for survival. The people of this world were not humans. They were the Zalari, a peaceful species who had lived for centuries among shining forests and silver rivers. Their world was full of harmony, and for many ages they had not known war. But the galaxy did not care for peace. The swarm had come, the swarm was endless. It was not a single species, but a tide of consuming creatures that moved from one system to another, leaving only silence and ashes. No treaty, no words, no mercy, only hunger. The Zalari fleets were brave, but bravery alone could not stop the living storm that swallowed stars. The leaders of the Zalari gathered in their great chamber, a hall built of crystal and light. Their voices trembled as they spoke. "We have lost half the colonies. The swarm presses harder each day. If no one helps us, we will fall." For many years, the Zalari had heard of other civilizations far beyond their borders. They had spoken with some, traded with others, and feared many more. Among these distant peoples, there were whispers of a dangerous race, humans, the Deathworlders. But the humans were only a story, a warning told in hushed voices. Do not contact them. Do not bring them close. They are too fierce, too wild. They come from a world where even the air tries to kill you. But now, facing extinction, the Zalari had no choice. Their scientists worked through the night, sending a desperate message into the void. It was not aimed at any one world, not sent to any one people. It was a scream across the galaxy, "Help us! Our worlds are falling. We cannot survive. Whoever hears this, we beg you, answer." The signal left their system like a spark in the darkness. It traveled faster than light through ancient networks, across dead relays, and through old channels that had not been used for centuries. Days passed, then weeks. The swarm pressed harder. Planets burned. The Zalari began to lose hope. But far, far away on a blue and green planet orbiting an ordinary star, the signal was heard. Earth had changed. It was no longer the fractured world of old wars and broken borders. Humanity had united. Not perfectly, not without arguments, but with enough strength to stand as one when the stars finally opened to them. The United Earth Fleet was a symbol of this unity, carrying the flag of all nations into the void. When the Zalari signal reached Earth, it arrived at a listening station orbiting the moon. The operators on duty were not expecting anything unusual. They were used to static, routine transmissions and automated reports from probes, but when the message came through, their screens filled with alien words translated by machines into trembling, desperate human speech. "Help us. Our worlds are falling. Whoever hears this, we beg you, answer." The room went silent. The operators stared at one another. The oldest of them whispered, "This is first contact, but it is a cry for help." Within hours, the message spread. From the moon to Earth, from Earth to Mars, from Mars to the far colonies near Jupiter's moons. Everywhere the signal was played, people listened. And with every replay, the same question echoed in their hearts. Should we answer? The Council of Earth met in the orbital station above the planet. Leaders, generals, and scientists gathered in a chamber of steel and glass, the planet glowing below them. The debate was fierce. "Why should we risk our people for strangers?" one delegate asked. "We know nothing of them." "They are desperate," another replied. "Can we ignore a plea for help?" A general stood, his voice calm but firm. "We have trained for years, prepared for a day when the galaxy might test us. That day has come. If we do nothing, we may one day face the swarm ourselves. Better to stand with allies now than stand alone later." Some feared it was a trap. Others feared the cost in human lives. But beneath every argument, one truth burned brighter than fear. Humanity had always been shaped by hardship. From deserts to ice fields, from storms to volcanoes, from war to disaster, humans had endured. And because of that, they understood suffering better than most. The vote was cast. The decision was made. Earth would answer. When the message returned to the Zalari, it carried only a few simple words. "This is Earth. We hear your call. We are coming." The Zalari did not know what to expect. They imagined small fleets, perhaps a handful of ships. But what rose from Earth's shipyards shocked even them. Warships launched in squadrons, black and silver hulls shining under the light of the sun. Carriers the size of mountains carried hundreds of smaller craft. Cruisers armed with railguns and plasma weapons formed tight ranks, Dreadnoughts, the giants of the fleet, moved slowly but with unstoppable power. The humans were not sending a few ships. They were sending an armada. Alien observers, hidden in distant stations, watched in disbelief. Messages spread among their networks. The Deathworlders are mobilizing. Impossible, they should not risk so much for strangers. They are dangerous. What are they planning? But Earth did not answer these whispers. The humans did not explain themselves. They did not bargain or ask for payment. Their leaders gave only one order to their fleets: move out. Among the crews of these ships were men and women who had grown up under skies filled with storms, who had known hunger, fear, and danger. To them, the swarm was not just another enemy, it was another challenge. And humanity had never backed down from a challenge. On the flagship Dauntless, Admiral Marcus Hale stood before his officers. His voice carried through the command decks, steady as steel. The Zalari called for help. We answered. Not because it is easy, not because it is safe, but because it is right. Remember this, we do not fight for conquest. We fight so others may live. The crew listened, their hearts steady, their resolve unshaken. This was not the first time humans had gone to war, but it was the first time they went to war for strangers across the stars. Back on Earth, families watched the broadcasts as the ships departed. Children pointed at the skies, whispering about the brave explorers who would defend worlds they had never seen. Farmers, workers, teachers, and dreamers all felt a strange pride. They were part of something greater than themselves. For centuries, humans had fought among themselves. But now, for the first time, they fought not as separate nations but as one people, and the galaxy would soon learn what that meant. As the fleet crossed the void, the Zalari prepared for the worst. Their leaders still whispered doubts. What if they come to conquer us? What if they cannot defeat the swarm? But deep inside, a spark of hope had been lit. For the first time in many dark years, the Zalari dared to believe they might survive. And so, the stage was set. A desperate signal had crossed the stars. Humanity had heard it, and the Deathworlder warships were on the move. The stars seemed calm, but the galaxy was watching. When Earth had answered the Zalari's cry for help, most alien powers had expected words of sympathy, or perhaps a token ship or two. None had expected what followed, the largest mobilization of warships humanity had ever launched. Every shipyard on Earth and Mars thundered with activity. Space docks above Jupiter's moons released heavy cruisers long prepared for such a day. Carriers, destroyers, and even experimental dreadnoughts were pulled into service. Humanity was not sending a token force, they were sending a storm. The alien observers across the galaxy, listening posts hidden in asteroid belts and quiet stations, captured the sight. Alien ambassadors, spies, and merchants all watched the transmissions with disbelief. "The Deathworlders are moving," whispered a voice in a distant station. "They mobilize like no other species," replied another. "Why do they risk so much for strangers?" Most alien civilizations were cautious, slow to commit fleets beyond their borders. To them, war was costly and risky. But humans did not see it that way. Their history was full of danger, and they had learned that hesitation could mean destruction. Reports spread quickly. Over 300 ships have left Earth orbit. The Martian fleet has joined them. Colony worlds are sending reinforcements. Some alien leaders shook their heads. To them, humanity's actions seemed reckless. But others whispered a different fear. What if the humans actually succeeded? The Zalari's doubt on their crystal homeworld. The Zalari received the news. The signal from Earth had been brief. "We are coming." But as their sensors tracked the massive fleet leaving the Sol system, their council chambers filled with mixed voices. "Are we to trust them?" asked Elder Mirath, her silver robes shining under the crystal lights. "They are Deathworlders. Their very nature is chaos and violence. What if they turn against us after defeating the swarm?" Another elder, younger and more hopeful, replied, "Would you rather die without trying? The swarm leaves us no choice. If we fall, what difference does it make if humanity comes later? At least we might survive today." The debate continued long into the night. Fear wrestled with hope. Yet the truth was clear. No other power had answered their call. Only Earth had moved. The fleet prepares on board the flagship Dauntless. Admiral Marcus Hale studied the reports. His officers stood around the command table, holographic maps of the Zalari sector glowing before them. "The swarm numbers are massive," said Commander Aisha Khan, her voice steady but concerned. If the Zalari's estimates are true, they've lost over a third of their fleet strength already. Admiral Hale nodded. Then we cannot waste time. Our goal is simple: hold the line, give them breathing space, and push back the swarm until reinforcements can stabilize the sector. Captain Rivera, in charge of the carrier Valiant, leaned forward. Sir, the men and women know what we're walking into. But the question remains, why are we doing this? These aren't our people. This isn't our war. The Admiral looked around the table. His voice was calm, but every word carried weight. Because one day it could be our war, and when that day comes, do you want to face it alone? Or do you want to know that somewhere, someone will answer if we call? The room fell silent. Every officer understood. Humanity was not just fighting for strangers. They were building trust in a galaxy that had always viewed them with suspicion. The soldiers' view in. The lower decks of the fleet's ships, soldiers prepared. They checked rifles, loaded exosuits, and ran drills in endless corridors. To many it felt like another war, another battle waiting to be fought. But there was something different this time. Private Daniel Ruiz sat with his squad, listening to the message that had sparked the mobilization. The alien voice, trembling with desperation, played again over the comm system. Whoever hears this, we beg you, answer. His squadmate, Corporal Lynn, shook her head. Never thought I'd be risking my life for aliens. Feels strange. Ruiz smiled faintly. Does it matter? If people are dying, they're dying. Doesn't matter what they look like. Another soldier added, I just hope they understand what it means when humans fight. We don't stop until the job is done. The words were simple, but they carried the spirit of humanity's past. From deserts to oceans, mountains to skies, humans had always fought to survive. And now they would fight to help others survive too. The departure when the fleet left the Sol system, the skies were filled with light. Families gathered across Earth and the colonies watching the streams. Children cheered as the giant carriers glided past, their engines burning bright against the stars. Farmers, miners, teachers, and workers all paused in their daily lives to watch. Humanity had gone to war many times before, but never like this. This time they were united, not against one another, but for a cause greater than themselves. In homes and schools, the phrase spread quickly. The fleet has left. They are answering the call. The Zalari delegation to ease the fears of the alien alliance. A small Zalari delegation was allowed aboard the Dauntless. They were scholars and diplomats, chosen not for war but for observation. They were astonished the moment they arrived. The ship was enormous, a floating city of steel and firepower. Soldiers moved with precise discipline. Engineers kept the reactors humming, and officers gave commands with steady confidence. Elder Thalin, one of the delegates, whispered to his companion, Do you feel it? These humans, they are not afraid. His companion replied softly, No, they are not afraid. They are prepared. The Zalari had lived in peace for so long that warships felt unnatural to them. But to humanity, every bolt of steel, every weapon, every system was natural, a continuation of their survival instincts, shaped by centuries on a hostile world. Voices of the galaxy, meanwhile. Alien networks lit up with arguments. Some races feared humanity's mobilization. They will not stop at helping. They will conquer. Others saw hope. If Deathworlders fight for strangers, perhaps they are not the monsters we believed. Still others remained silent, watching carefully. Humanity's actions would reshape the galaxy's opinion of them forever. But the humans did not waste time worrying about reputation. Their focus was simple: reach the Zalari before the swarm consumed them completely. The journey days turned into weeks as the fleet crossed the vast emptiness between stars. In that silence, humans trained, repaired, and prepared. They were not idle. They were patient hunters waiting for the right moment. In the observation deck of the Dauntless, Admiral Hale stood looking out at the stars. Elder Thalan approached quietly. Admiral, he said, his voice soft, I must ask, why do you risk so much for us? Our people are strangers. You owe us nothing. Hale turned, his expression calm. Because one day, Admiral or Elder, someone will ask us why we risked nothing, and I would rather be remembered for answering a call than for ignoring it. The Elder bowed his head. For the first time, he understood a little of the human heart. The swarm's shadow. As the fleet neared Zalari space, their sensors detected the swarm. The readings were terrifying. Millions of bioships moving like a dark tide, devouring everything in their path. Even the humans, hardened as they were, felt the weight of the enemy they were about to face. But there was no turning back. Humanity had made a promise. The order came across every ship in the fleet. Prepare for battle. The swarm awaits. Engines roared, weapons charged, and crews stood ready. For the first time in history, Deathworlders would fight not for themselves, but for the survival of another species. And the galaxy held its breath. The void of space looked calm, but every human aboard the fleet knew the truth. It was a calm that hid a storm. Ahead, just beyond the edge of Zalari territory, the swarm was moving. Arrival at the war zone. The Dauntless led the way, its massive hull shining under distant starlight. The rest of the human fleet stretched behind it. Hundreds of ships gliding silently through the dark. "Admiral, we are entering Zalari space," reported Commander Khan. Admiral Hale nodded, his eyes fixed on the holographic map glowing above the table. "Signal the fleet. All ships stay in formation. This is not a drill. This is war." As they crossed the border, the comm channels filled with desperate messages. Zalari voices cracked with fear. "We are falling back. Our colony is burning. The swarm has broken our lines. Anyone, please anyone, help us." The human crews listened in silence. They could almost hear the terror in those alien voices. For many soldiers, it was the first time they had ever heard the raw fear of a species that had never known war until now. The first sight, the swarm, appeared without warning. Millions of bioships stretched across the stars like a shadow that swallowed light. Their forms were strange, living vessels of bone and flesh, their surfaces pulsing like breathing beasts. Private Ruiz stared at the viewing screen, his stomach tight. "By all that's holy, look at the size of them," Corporal Lin whispered. "They're not ships, they're monsters." The swarm moved as one, a dark tide advancing against the smaller, fragile Zalari defense fleet. The aliens fought bravely, their crystal ships glowing with energy beams, but they were overwhelmed. One Zalari cruiser shattered under the pressure, its fragments spinning silently into the void. On board the Dauntless, Elder Thalan trembled as he watched. "We are too late. The swarm is endless." Admiral Hale's voice was calm but sharp like a blade. "Not endless. Nothing is endless. Humanity enters the battle." The order rang out across every human ship. "Engage the enemy." Engines roared. Carriers released wings of fighters that swarmed forward like arrows of light. Cruisers locked onto targets, their railguns thundering with bursts that cut across space. Dreadnoughts opened fire, releasing massive plasma bolts that tore holes into the swarm's ranks. The aliens had expected humans to hesitate, to test the waters. Instead, the humans charged with precision and fury. A human destroyer dived into the thick of the swarm, its captain shouting, "Fire all batteries!" The ship unleashed a storm of missiles, breaking apart 3 bioships at once. In the carrier Valiant, Captain Rivera watched as fighter squadrons sliced through enemy ranks. "Push them back! Show them what it means to fight Deathworlders." The swarm, shocked by the sudden resistance, shifted to meet the new threat. Massive bioships turned, spewing swarms of smaller creatures toward the human fleet. Zalaris shook on the surface of a nearby Zalari command station. Their commanders watched the battle unfold. For years they had seen only loss after loss, retreat after retreat. But now they saw something they had not seen in generations. The humans were not retreating. They were not breaking, they were advancing. One Zalari commander whispered, his voice trembling with awe. "They fight like no other. They are not afraid." Another added, "Look at them. They attack as if death itself cannot stop them." The Zalari soldiers cheered as they saw human ships cutting through swarm lines. For the first time in years, hope sparked in their hearts. The tide of battle. The swarm adapted quickly. Enormous beasts larger than human dreadnoughts moved forward, their mouths glowing with destructive energy. One opened fire, a massive beam slicing across space. A human cruiser was hit, its hull torn apart, its crew lost in seconds. "Cruiser Hammerfall is gone," cried a voice across comms. The loss was heavy, but humanity did not falter. Admiral Hale's voice carried across the fleet. "We mourn them later. For now, hold the line." Human ships tightened formation, weaving together their firepower. Fighters targeted weak spots, carving holes for larger ships to strike. Dreadnoughts unleashed coordinated barrages, overwhelming even the swarm's largest beasts. Private Ruiz, watching from the gunnery deck, felt the deck shake as his cannons fired. He shouted over the noise, "We're hitting them hard! They're breaking!" And indeed, for the first time, the swarm ships recoiled. Human resilience in the chaos of battle. The differences between humans and Zalari became clear. Zalari soldiers were fragile, breaking under the endless stress of fighting an unstoppable enemy. Humans, however, seemed to grow stronger under pressure. The harsher the fight, the more determined they became. Captain Rivera stood on her bridge, sweat on her forehead, her eyes unblinking. They think fear will stop us, but fear is what taught us to survive. Her officers nodded. Fear was not a weakness for humanity, it was a teacher. And today they were proving its lessons to the galaxy. The turning point hours passed. The battlefield was filled with debris, both swarm and human. Yet the human fleet still held. More than that, they pushed forward. At last, the Zalari defense fleet received a message from the Dauntless: "Form up behind us. We will cover your retreat." For the first time, the Zalari did not retreat into destruction. They retreated into safety. Behind the human wall of steel, they found protection. One Zalari captain wept openly as he replied, "We thought we were alone." "But you came," Admiral Hale answered simply. "You called," we answered. The swarm withdraws. The swarm, confused by the unexpected resistance, began to pull back. Their massive beasts, once pressing forward with confidence, now recoiled. Their smaller ships scattered, regrouping at a distance. The battle was not won. Not fully. But it was not lost either. For the first time, the swarm had been stopped. On the bridges of human ships, exhausted crews cheered, some wept. Others simply sat in silence, staring at the battlefield where they had done what no one else could. Private Ruiz leaned against his console, smiling weakly. "We didn't just hold the line. We pushed them back," Corporal Lin nodded. "And now the galaxy knows we can." After the battle, when the smoke cleared and silence returned to space, the Zalari delegation approached Admiral Hale. Elder Thalin's eyes glistened with emotion. "You saved us," he whispered. "For so long we thought hope was gone, but you brought it back." The Admiral looked at him steadily. "No one survives alone, Elder, not in this galaxy. Remember that." The words carried more weight than 1,000 promises. Across the galaxy, whispers spread faster than light. The humans stood against the swarm. The Deathworlders held the line. The impossible has happened. The swarm was pushed back. Some feared what this meant. Others felt hope for the first time. But none could deny it. The galaxy had changed, and this was only the beginning. The battle had been fierce, and the humans had proven their power. The swarm had been stopped, at least for now. Yet victory came with a price, and the human fleet was not unaware of it. Aftermath of the first clash. Across the front lines, human ships floated silently, their hulls scarred and battered. Fires still burned in some sections, while repair crews worked tirelessly, welding metal and patching shields. The cost of intervention was already visible. Private Ruiz walked along the corridors of the Dauntless, his boots echoing against the metal floor. Around him, fellow soldiers moved with quiet determination. Some carried casualties. Others carried supplies. Everyone knew that survival required effort beyond mere fighting. He paused for a moment and looked out of the viewport. Below, the Zalari colonies were beginning to recover from the swarm's first assault. Fire still burned on the surface of some cities, but the human presence had created a safe zone, a shield between the swarm and the survivors. "Feels strange," he muttered to Lin. "We're fighting for aliens, for strangers. But it feels right." Lin nodded. "This is who we are. We don't stop when someone needs help." Even among the younger soldiers, a sense of pride mixed with exhaustion. Humanity had risked everything for a species they had never met, and they had already saved thousands of lives. Lessons from the Deathworlders in a meeting aboard the Dauntless. Admiral Hale spoke to Zalari commanders and observers. His voice was calm but firm. "Your fleets are brave, but bravery alone will not win this war. You need strategy, preparation, and endurance. And you need to understand fear is not always weakness. It can teach you how to survive." Elder Thalin listened carefully, absorbing every word. "Your people. They fight not only with weapons, but with spirit. They do not falter even when the odds seem impossible." Hale nodded. "We come from a world that demands everything of us from the moment we are born. Survival is not a game. It is a test that never ends. That is why we fight." For the Zalari, it was a revelation. Their world had been peaceful, their lives sheltered. The humans' words carried the weight of experience, of struggle, and of victory earned through pain. The fleet regroups. While the Zalari marveled at humanity's resolve, the human fleet did not rest. Engineers worked through shifts to repair damaged ships, pilots trained for coordinated strikes, and commanders studied the swarm's patterns to anticipate the next attack. Commander Khan approached Admiral Hale. "Sir, we've stabilized this sector, but the swarm will return. They are adapting to our tactics." Hale rubbed his chin thoughtfully. "Then we adapt faster. We will teach them that Deathworlders do not yield. We will not only defend, we will make them fear approaching again." In the quiet corridors of the ships, soldiers prepared emotionally for what lay ahead. No one spoke openly about fear, but every human understood the cost of the battles to come. Bonds across species, in the Zalari colonies. Survivors were learning from the humans as well. Medical teams trained alongside human doctors, engineers observed human repair crews, and pilots learned basic combat strategies from the Deathworlders. Elder Thalen observed a small human squad, teaching Zalari soldiers how to operate human weapon systems. "It is remarkable," he whispered to a colleague. "They do not just fight, they teach. They share. They sacrifice themselves to make others stronger." A Zalari soldier looked at the humans in awe. "They fight as one, yet each of them knows their role. They make us feel like we can fight too." It was more than just combat skills. Humanity was imparting a philosophy, one of resilience, courage, and unity. The Zalari began to see that help came not just from power, but from shared determination. The swarm's counterattack. The calm did not last long. Sensors soon detected an enormous shift in the swarm's formations. The enemy had learned from the first engagement. New bioships appeared, stronger and more numerous. Massive tendrils of energy pulsed across the swarm, forming a wall that threatened to cut off the human fleet from the Zalari colonies. "Sir, they are preparing a massive counterattack," reported Commander Khan. Admiral Hale's expression remained steady. "Then we must be ready. The swarm believes it can overwhelm us. We will show them that no one can stand against Deathworlders and survive unchallenged." Private Ruiz checked his rifle and exosuit, feeling the familiar tension in his muscles. Lynn beside him muttered, "They think they can scare us. Let's remind them who they're facing." Across the fleet, the humans readied themselves for another confrontation, one that would test not only their skill, but their resolve and spirit. Strategic lessons in a strategy room aboard the Dauntless. Admiral Hale and his officers studied the swarm's previous attack. Holographic images displayed swarm formations, movements, and weaknesses. "We need to force them into predictable patterns," Hale explained. "They have strength in numbers, but not in coordination." "We will use that," Commander Rivera added. "Their smaller ships are fast but fragile. We can draw them into traps and destroy them in waves." The officers nodded. Every plan focused on efficiency, precision, and minimizing unnecessary losses. This was humanity's strength, calculated aggression honed through centuries of surviving harsh worlds and unforgiving environments. The Zalari observers were astonished. "Your people are not reckless," Thalen whispered. "They calculate, anticipate, and adapt, yet they fight with heart as well as mind." Hale only smiled faintly. "Survival demands both. You cannot succeed with one without the other." The human spirit, in the quiet moments between battles, humans reflected on why they fought. Some wrote letters to families, others meditated, but all shared the same understanding. Their actions had purpose beyond survival or glory. Lieutenant Sarah Kim, overseeing a repair team, spoke to her crew. "We are here for them. They asked for help and we gave it. That is all the reason we need." Private Ruiz listened, feeling a surge of pride. "It feels different," he said softly. "We're not just fighting for Earth, we're fighting for life itself." Across the fleet, the sentiment was universal. Deathworlders were not motivated by greed, conquest, or ambition. They fought because they could not ignore the call of those in need. Preparing the next engagement as the fleet advanced deeper into Zalari space, the human commanders coordinated with the Zalari leaders to establish strong defensive positions. Human engineers reinforced planetary shields, while soldiers trained local militias to resist swarm incursions. The Zalari began to understand the true cost of the human fleet's aid. These were not just ships, they were teachers, protectors, and examples of endurance. And every action carried risk. Hale spoke to the assembled commanders. "The swarm will return. They will test us, push us to our limits, and we will meet them, not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. If we falter, the galaxy loses more than these colonies. It loses hope. Elder Thalon, standing beside him, felt a deep respect for the humans. They have taught us more than combat. They have taught us courage, determination, and the meaning of true aid. The next wave soon, the swarm appeared again, larger and more organized. The humans had anticipated this moment. The fleet moved with precision, setting traps, coordinating strikes, and shielding the Zalari colonies. The battle was fierce. Ships clashed in streaks of light and fire. Explosions rippled through space, echoing silently across the void. Yet the humans did not waver. They fought not just to win, but to inspire their allies to fight alongside them. Private Ruiz fired relentlessly, watching as one wave of swarm ships after another fell. Lynn beside him shouted over the noise, "Keep going! We can do this!" For the Zalari watching, it was a revelation. They had never seen a species fight like this, calm, precise, and unyielding. They realized that help from the Deathworlders was more than just ships or weapons. It was courage, spirit, and determination embodied in flesh and steel. A costly victory. By the end of the engagement, the swarm had been pushed back once again. Yet the cost was high. Several human ships were heavily damaged, and countless crews had been injured. The Zalari had survived, but they understood that their survival depended entirely on the humans' endurance. Hale walked through the fleet afterward, speaking to soldiers and officers alike. "We are not invincible," he said. "We are strong because we do not fight for ourselves alone. Every life we save strengthens the galaxy. Every act of courage matters." Private Ruiz, leaning against the railing of his ship, nodded. "We're not just warriors. We're the hope they never had." Elder Thalon watched the humans with deep admiration. "We called for help. We received more than help. We received humanity's spirit." And across the galaxy, the story of the Deathworlders' courage spread. The Zalari would never forget it. Other species would hear of it, and the swarm would begin to understand that facing humans was not just a battle. It was a lesson in unstoppable will. The human fleet had fought fiercely across the Zalari sector. Each battle had tested skill, courage, and endurance, but the war was far from over. The swarm had retreated for now, but intelligence reports confirmed one truth. It was returning larger, stronger, and more organized than ever. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge of the Dauntless, his eyes scanning the stars. The fleet stretched around him, massive, disciplined, and ready. He did not speak of fear. Humans did not dwell on it. Instead, he spoke of purpose. "We have one chance," he said to his officers. "The swarm believes it can crush us with numbers. Let's show them that even the impossible can be stopped by will, strategy, and unity. Today we fight not only for the Zalari, but for the galaxy itself." Commander Aisha Khan nodded. "We are ready, Admiral. Every ship, every crew, every fighter is prepared. The swarm will not break us." Rallying the Zalari. The Zalari, now inspired by human determination, rallied behind the fleet. Soldiers who had fled in terror now manned defensive positions, repaired their damaged ships, and learned new tactics from human officers. Elder Thalon addressed the Zalari fleet. "We have witnessed the courage of the Deathworlders. They fight not for glory, not for power, but because it is right. Let us take that courage into our hearts and stand with them. Today we fight for survival and for hope." Across the fleet, human and Zalari ships aligned side by side. What had once been a divided and helpless alliance now became a united force, strengthened by trust, training, and shared determination. Private Ruiz checked his weapons and exosuit, watching as the massive swarm approached. He felt the familiar surge of adrenaline. "This is it," he muttered to Lynn. "We either hold or we lose everything." Lynn adjusted her helmet. "We hold, that's what we do." The swarm returns from the darkness, the swarm advanced. Its millions of bioships moved in intricate formations, a deadly wave that could crush worlds. The massive beasts, larger than human dreadnoughts, opened their mouths, emitting destructive energy pulses. Smaller ships swarmed like insects, seeking weaknesses. Sensors aboard human ships lit up, tracking each enemy movement. "They're coordinating better than before," Commander Rivera noted. "They've adapted to our previous tactics." Hale's eyes were steady. "Then we adapt faster. Every attack they make, we have already prepared a counter. Remember, Deathworlders survive because we anticipate, endure, and strike when it counts." The fleet formed a massive defensive formation around the Zalari colonies. Every ship had a role. Carriers deployed fighters, cruisers unleashed railguns, and dreadnoughts absorbed attacks while retaliating with devastating power. The first wave of the swarm hit with full force. Energy beams tore through space, colliding with human shields. Explosions lit the darkness like artificial stars. Private Ruiz fired relentlessly from the gunnery deck of the Dauntless, watching as bioships exploded under precise human fire. Lin guided fighter squads into enemy formations, striking weak points and forcing retreats. Across the battlefield, the Zalari fought alongside the humans. Their courage, bolstered by the Deathworlder's presence, transformed fear into determination. Commander Khan called out over the comms, "Hold the line. Do not give them ground." The first wave crashed against the United Fleet, and for the first time the swarm realized it was facing more than enemies. It was facing an unbreakable wall of courage and strategy. The turning point hours passed. Ships were damaged, crews fatigued, but the human fleet did not falter. Admiral Hale coordinated strikes with precision, guiding the Zalari to maximize effectiveness while minimizing losses. Elder Thalan, observing from a Zalari cruiser, whispered, "They fight as if they are one being. Their coordination, their resolve. It is beyond anything we have known." A massive swarm beast, the largest yet, moved toward the fleet, belching deadly energy. It seemed unstoppable. "Target the weak points," Hale ordered. "Concentrated fire, do not let it survive." Fighters darted around the creature, avoiding energy pulses, while dreadnoughts unleashed volleys of plasma and railgun fire. Slowly, deliberately, the beast was torn apart. One by one, the swarm's largest vessels fell. The tide began to turn, humanity's spirit. Throughout the battle, humans continued to show the difference between raw strength and enduring spirit. While the swarm had numbers, humans had resilience. Lieutenant Sarah Kim guided repair teams, patching damaged ships in the middle of combat. Soldiers like Ruiz and Lin continued firing, refusing to rest even as exhaustion set in. Hale's voice carried across comms. "Every life we save, every enemy we stop, we teach the galaxy that Deathworlders do not yield. Fight with honor, fight with heart, and the impossible will bow." The Zalari watched and learned. For the first time, they felt that survival was possible, not by luck, not by chance, but by determination and courage. The final assault. As the day progressed, the swarm made one final, desperate push. Its creatures, both small and massive, surged toward the fleet. Energy beams flared, ships exploded, and space trembled with the intensity of combat. Admiral Hale issued commands, each one precise: fighters to distract and divide the swarm, cruisers to hit with concentrated fire, dreadnoughts to hold the line and absorb assaults. Every human ship performed flawlessly. The fleet moved like a living organism, each part supporting the other. And at the center, the Dauntless led the charge, an unyielding spear of resolve. Private Ruiz shouted over the roar of explosions, "Keep going. Push them back. This is our fight." Lin's squadron followed, darting between enemy ships and striking with deadly efficiency. "We don't stop now. Not ever." One by one, the swarm's assault faltered. Its formations broke. Its creatures, vast and terrifying, were destroyed or scattered. The swarm retreats. Finally, the swarm retreated. The vast tide that had seemed unstoppable moments ago fled in confusion, leaving broken ships and debris behind. The human fleet had held, and in doing so, they had changed the course of the war. Across the battlefield, the Zalari cheered. Ships that had once quivered under fear now glowed with energy as they celebrated survival. Elder Thalan, standing aboard his cruiser, addressed the humans. "You have not only fought for us, you have taught us how to stand. We owe our lives, our future to you." Admiral Hale replied simply, "We answered your call. Today we did what any humans would do." After the battle, the fleet moved carefully among the debris, rescuing survivors and providing aid to damaged colonies. Every action was measured, deliberate, and filled with care. Private Ruiz helped Zalari civilians trapped on one planet, guiding them to safety. Lin repaired smaller ships alongside engineers, ensuring they could fight again if needed. Hale convened his officers to plan the next steps. "The swarm will return. We must rebuild, repair, and strengthen these systems. But remember this, we have already proven what is possible. With courage and unity, nothing is impossible." The fleet worked tirelessly, showing not only power but compassion, teaching the Zalari that survival was about more than weapons. It was about heart. The galaxy takes note across the galaxy. News of the humans' intervention spread like wildfire. Stories of the Deathworlders holding the line against the swarm inspired hope in some, and fear in others. "The humans are unstoppable," whispered a Zalari commander on a distant station. "They fight not for power but for life itself," reported another observer. "The galaxy will never underestimate them again," a third added. Even species that had never met humanity began to see a pattern. Deathworlders did not yield, did not surrender, and did not fight for selfish reasons. They fought because it was right. A new dawn. As the battle faded into memory, the fleet rested near the Zalari colonies. Repairs were made, stories were shared, and bonds were strengthened. Humans and Zalari worked side by side, united not only by survival but by mutual respect. Elder Thalan approached Admiral Hale one last time. "Your people have shown us more than strength. You have shown us courage, resilience, and hope. You have reminded us what it means to survive and to help others survive." Hale smiled faintly. "We did what anyone would do. But remember this. Every species has the ability to fight for life. We only answered the call. The rest, that is up to you." Private Ruiz looked at the stars from the observation deck. "We came as strangers. Now we leave as something greater. Hope." Lynn nodded beside him. "And the galaxy will never forget it." The swarm had been pushed back. The Zalari were safe for now. And humanity had once again proven the truth the galaxy would remember forever. Deathworlders answer the call. And when they do, nothing, not even the impossible, can stand against them.